that in the Egyptian history, in the Egyptian timeline, you got to think about it now. Let's bring Sumer back into play, right? Let's use Assyrians and put them back into play. Bring the Assyrians back. Let's bring the Assyrians back now. In 1200 BC, the Pharaoh Ramses said that in his war against the Phoenicians, he said he had defeated the Phoenicians who destroyed the Hittites who no longer exist. This is Pharaoh Ramses in 1200 BC, right? And he gives a list of the Hittite kings which are destroyed. In 700 BC, 500 years later, the Assyrian kings are fighting the Hittites. But the Hittites were destroyed 500 years ago. And guess who's on the list of the kings? The same exact kings the Assyrians are fighting in 700 BC is the same kings that Pharaoh said 500 years ago didn't exist. Am I knocking Ramses? I'm not knocking Ramses. I'm knocking the chronological order that has been given. Yes, sir.
We all know that was like propaganda. Ramses really didn't destroy the Hittites. They actually fought to a standstill, and you can look at both sides of it. They both said they destroyed each other. At the end of the day, they have a document that clearly shows, right? They wrote a treaty. You know what I'm saying? But to the rest of the world, they right. You know what I mean? It's propaganda. Like we say we won the Vietnam War, but we didn't. On the outside, you know what I mean? The United States, they claim won it.
No. I'm agreeing with the Hittite battle, but I'm talking about when he fought the Phoenicians. Now, there's three different Ramses.
You talking about Ramses? Which one are you talking about?
I think Ramses II. But the reason why I go in there is because what I'm saying is the dating. Because he didn't say he was fighting the Phoenicians, and he gave the connection with the Phoenicians destroyed the Hittites.
For the sea people.
Yeah.
You talking about the sea people?
Yes, sir.
So you making the sea people the Phoenicians? The sea people aren't Phoenicians.
We're in the phonetic. I'm talking about the sea people are different people in different times. You have to. It's different connections.
But if you talking about that particular war, you feel me? Okay. Then we talk about the sea people. They didn't really know where they came from. I'm still in question on who the sea people are. So if you can educate me on who you think the sea people are, it'd be very educational because it's kind of like blurred.
Yeah. It could be the descendants of Tyre. You know what I'm saying? It could be anybody in that area with a naval fleet like that. You know what I'm saying? And you got to understand at the same time, ancient time, we had Tarshish too. We had Spain. You understand what I'm saying?
I don't think they had a naval fleet though. They had some. They had like.
All right, but what I'm saying, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is, in the chronological order, what they give it is 1200.
So you just said basically saying that
the European chronological order.
So you say that the line of Bible up. That's what I'm trying to get you to.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the scriptures and even some of the authorities now are going back and saying that you have to use the Bible they use the Bible as an original source, but then they faded away from using the Bible. But now they're finding out the Bible's actual historic references of when things happen actually lined up in dates.
That's interesting.
So that's what I'm saying, when we get that, because then we read in Kings, and we're talking about the time of Elijah, and the time of Elijah, the Hittites are very prosperous. And that's also in 700 AD. Okay.
So are you saying that
BC.
the Egyptologists are not just counting Sumer and all those other nations that the Europeans definitely is like really hidden in certain
I'm saying it's a trick used by the Europeans.
Right.
The reason why is because the credence that's given in the Bible, perfect example, the credence that's given in the scriptures to Cush is phenomenal. Now, it's overwhelming in the Bible because if you look at it, even during the time of Hezekiah, Ahkkakek came up there and helped Hezekiah. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that we have to realize. If you read in the book called A Rescue of Jerusalem,
that's right,
in the book of Rescue of Jerusalem, they tell you about the history and the Egyptians portraying the history of the Assyrians actually coming into Egypt, but they didn't break Egypt at that time. But what they're showing is, they're showing that something happened, a vast plague where people died off, and they died off of sickness and were ate up by rats, and many of them flee, and this is according to the Egyptian writings, during the time of Ahkkakek, but they can only be referring to when they're helping the Israelites over there in the land of Canaan. You can read that in the Rescue of Jerusalem.
So what is, I'm not trying to cut you off, and I read that book, and he was trying to make a parallel. It was a white guy writing for his son. He adopted a black kid, and he was trying to show his black son some history. But when I go to the Bible reference on that, right, I don't see the Bible reference giving reference to the Nubians or the Cushites. They give reference to the angel. They say the angel of the Lord did that. So that's kind of disingenuous. That's the way they. So are they saying that the angel was Shabaka?
No, but that's one of the arguments the brother makes in the book. That's one of the arguments the brothers make in the book. But we look at it from a standpoint of deliverance because the Harker is mentioned because he's the one or partial reason that it was discovered or they fled or they left. But some of the other half of the reason is because of what's documented by the Egyptians was a massive plague which Israelites seen being a blessing from the Creator. You understand what I'm saying?
So the Harker was a Cushite.
He's the king that came down the 25th
dynasty. Yeah.
He was something serious. He's very documented.
So these are the things that we have to talk about when we're looking at this timeline now. So when we're coming from a European perspective and how the brother was coming, like why the Jews hiding the European, when you really look at the Bible, the Jews are hiding the Cushite influence, but the Bible, the scriptures isn't. The Tanakh isn't. The Tanakh gives you, even in the book of Judges, it says, when the Israelites were suppressed by the king of Mesopotamia, whose name was Cushta Rashpatayim, meaning he was the evil king of Cush. But at the time, they oppressed him. So we say evil king of Cush, then you say it's different times. There's different times where there's corrupt times of empires, and there's divine times of empires. So when people say, "Oh, Egypt," like one of the questions, and I answer some of the questions that brothers give forth against the Hebrew Israelites is, and I started out when I seen the debate with Polite and the Hebrew Israelites. Now I'm a fan of Polite. That's a brother, but the Israelites he was testing were uneducated,
right?
And one of the questions that he presented forth to one of the brothers, and he said, "Oh, you have a Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Y'all got a Holy Trinity, right? And we don't believe in the Holy Trinity. Only we believe in the omniscience, the omnipotent, and the omnipresent. That's the top of the tree of life. That's the only Trinity you'll see."
I have a question for you, real fast.
Okay, brother.
I came through this big trying and I'm enjoying the information.
Yeah.
But the problem I have is that most Israelites, like you said, right, they own the corners and they spewing misinformation.
It's true.
I routinely tell them, if you read your own text, right, it was a relationship back and forth. I say Joseph, right, they say Joseph come in, right, and all of a sudden it was a king that didn't know him. But obviously before that point it was all good. They fed him, right? If you know anything about the Hebrews, they were pastorals. And so they gave him land to graze they sheep and they goat. They really didn't have a problem with the pastorals at that particular junction. Back and forth history, you get farmers and pastoralists, they have a problem. The pastoralists are saying the land don't belong to nobody, right? The city dwellers are saying we'll take that, that's our land. And lies the problem. We had that problem today in Africa. And so the problem I have is that Hebrews, they literally claim to hate Africa. And that's the most absurd because the text don't say that.
It doesn't say.
That'd be my problem. And I'm glad to say y'all not.
I think, and that's the beauty of. That's why when we started out, we showed a lot of the empires that the Israelites established in Africa, and Israelites even defended Africa. And there's a common debate on who Queen Kahina is. Now, Queen Kahina makes a statement, Lions of Judah and Lions of Africa stand up against the Arab oppression. She makes a statement herself. So, but the European Jews don't claim Queen Kahina because they can't claim a black woman being of them. So that's why.
Where'd you get that statement? What's that statement?
It's
Texas. That. Like to see that.
I can look up online and you can find it. It's many information that deal with Queen Kahina and Moorish connections.
She's in West Africa or what?
She was in Mali. She was in Mali. Queen Kahina. You see a picture of her. She's usually laid with the feathers and she got like 2 lions with her. It's a famous picture.
Yeah.
She's the African queen that fought off, and she was murdered by the Arabs. Yeah. So what I was showing is the Ashanti tribe, you got the Igbo, you got a lot of these tribes in Africa who are Hebrew Israelites of origin.
So how do you, now that's my problem, right? How do you, I think this book, Hebrew Israel of West Africa.
Right here, brother.
Right? Yeah, I'm going to get that book, right? So I don't really want to get too tough with that right now because I haven't really read the text. But the problem I really have with that is that, like, they show certain connections with the God Yah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they claim that's a Hebrew origin. But the reality is the actual language that quote-unquote Semitic Hebrews speak is really originating in Africa.
Yes, sir.
And so it's really in reverse. You get me? So really, y'all will come out of an older, pre-existing African language. They call it Afro-Asiatic. And Afro-Asiatic first pops up.
In Sinai Peninsula in the coal mine.
Ethiopia. No. That's the right. We're not talking about that.
All right.
We're talking about the actual spoken language. Right? It originates, according to Mark Bunnell, right, the fellow white scholar, it originates in Africa. Matter of fact, we don't even like to call it Afro-Asiatic. It's an African language. And so I've always wondered, why do make this point, why do Hebrew Israelites bash Africa when you speak an African language and you're writing an African writing system?
Okay, now, perfectly.
Can I make a quick, try to understand something?
All right.
You keep calling it African language.
Let's get off the African, because that word's not even there.
Could we say maybe Hamitic versus Semitic language?
No, can't say Hamitic neither.
That would be the same. That would be the same thing. That's the same thing.
We shouldn't use Hamitic.
Because Africa is a land where Hamitic is people. Lands don't speak, people do.
No, listen to me.
When you say Africa, I'm looking at a continent.
That's
or
fine.
a land.
That's
okay?
great.
But lands don't speak.
But aren't people named after the land?
Brother, I'm not arguing.
I know you're not. I know that's not your
But I just
position.
want to get clarification.
I use the word Africa because we're more familiar with it, right? But on a historical term, we know that Africanus, right? Scipios Africanus,
Who conquered that?
he defeated the Carthaginian Hannibal, and he took on that name. And so that name really starts in Africa, though.
Yeah.
Right? You read your boy. What was your boy? He wrote the from Timbuktu.
Professor Windsor.
And I don't like that he making up stuff, but on that he even takes it back to y'all scriptures saying a particular tribe where the word Africa comes from. So it's an African word now. It is. They have a lot. It's a lot of different origins. You should read Brother Sahu Temp's work on that, and he gives it like it's really talking about a confederation of different African groups.
Okay.
You feel me? So I use that word for familiarity. But Ham, that's not. No one called himself Ham during that time. That's what y'all doing because y'all familiar with that term. So we're doing the same thing at the point of time.
So way before, because like, the name Africa was presented from a man that one time was kind. Is that true?
No, it was because if I say I come in this room and defeat y'all, and I say, Reverend Uncle Hebrew, meaning in Roman times, whenever you conquered somebody, you would take on their name. So he took on a black person, he took on Hannibal's name.
Yeah, but I'm
The
saying
white
way before
people.
Africa, way before the white people, that name was named something totally different than that. It wasn't God.
They don't know what the name is.
I think this discussion is not on.
You're right, not on top.
Yeah.
The brother asked a question. Why do we hate Africans? And like I said, we don't hate Africans.
No. I'm saying you stepped.
And he said because our language is of